All right. Say hello to the empty chair, to Rob of Law and Lumber.
Yeah.
I'm Eric.
Hi, guys.
How are you doing?
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what's happening in the.
Tell me he unplugged his lights. Yep, you unplugged your light.
That's the dexterity of the master performing magician.
You know what? We got to rename you from Spidey to Tumbly or something like that.
I like that. He's the tumble cat here.
Oh. Everything hurts.
Are you feeling your age now there?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like no longer 20. That is the entrance. I hope somebody was clipping that. That will turn up later.
That's going to turn up.
LegalBytes should be here at some point, but I wanted to spend a minute and talk because this is our second of what looks like it's going to be at least 3. I have a feeling there may be more, but I want to address comments. A lot of comments came in because of last week, and I want to be careful with what we're saying, but also I want to point out that some of the comments I feel might be projecting a little bit. Like, before you claim that we are saying something, please rewind and please actually parse our words. I can, from what I've seen from Spidey and definitely Rob, we're choosing our words very carefully, and they may sound like they're close to an edge or something, but they're pretty carefully chosen. We're not trying to lay things out. And one of the elements that keeps coming up is we mentioned the time issue. Now, the time issue is coming up not only for me, but also the Marilyn Manson legal team. This is a legal argument. I get it. But there are some comparisons that I do believe people should consider. Like, I understand completely that somebody can be in a relationship for many years and they can be trapped in a relationship. There are so many reasons, especially, let's say you get in a relationship in your early 20s and you have kids, you never really got a job or went to college, whatever. There's a lot of things like that. And then all of a sudden, 10 years in, what are you going to do? You have to worry about your kids and you don't have a job. You don't have skills. So I understand that. And I understand having people feeling like they have to stay in a really bad situation. I'm sure, Rob, you've seen that firsthand. Am I misrepresenting it all?
No, not at all.
Now, where I think some confusion is coming in is it is very unusual, though, for somebody to have a relationship, in the relationship for whatever reason, be seemingly amicable for 10 years, 15 years, and then suddenly to realize many years later, oh my God, I was abused. That is an unusual thing. Now, when it's one person, it's kind of unusual. When it's 2 people, it's even more unusual. When the numbers start adding up, it becomes remarkable, is the best way I could put it. Does that mean it's not true? I can't say that, but I have to say that I want to look into the evidence. And feel free to jump in, guys. I just,
I'm so glad we're doing this. And for me too, like, I watched the stream last week and I did think it was great. And I think we're making some great points. I think some people forget that, we're just talking, we're chatting. Sometimes things come out a little wrong and everyone's looking at this with a filter of what they want to see. I want to be very black on white for this. If you go back and look at my earlier videos of Amber Heard, right in the beginning, when everyone else was, hi, Alita.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
No worries.
Oh, welcome.
When everyone else was like already made up their minds when it came to Amber Heard v. Johnny Depp, and everyone was either like, she's a monster, or, he's lying, or everyone had made up their minds, I was still very, very cautious. And that's just who I am. It's my training where, we make the YouTube content and we say the big statements to get the attention, the thumbnails. But at the end of the day, we're trained to be really, really objective and consider both sides every step of the way. So yeah, last week we looked at Ashley and we looked at Esme, and yeah, there were some things that were off. Does it mean that they're both lying about everything? No. Does it mean that every single woman in this case is lying? No. It just means that we're looking at the behaviors and there are certain things we see. And that's all this is. Even today, when I point certain things out, please, please, please take it with a grain of salt. Is that the expression, grain of salt? I don't even know what that means, but I feel like, okay. So, there are certain things we're going to see, and I'm going to point out and go, that's weird. That shouldn't sound that way. But for me to go from that looks a little off, I would be interested in learning more about that, to she's absolutely lying. We don't speak in absolutes. I don't like absolutes. And even this statement, I know it's going to trigger a lot of people to be like, how can you not see that they're all lying? Or how can you say they're all telling the truth? It's not that obvious. I know we like to think it's obvious. I know we like to think that we're human lie detectors and we have really good intuition and we could really see what people, we can't. The studies show that we can't. So we're doing our best. We're trying our hardest, but keep an open mind. And if somebody in the chat disagrees, that's normal. We're all bringing different experiences to this. And I just wanted to be clear, coming from me, that I'm seeing behaviors. I'll point out those behaviors, but it's way too early and I'm inconclusive, and slight behaviors. Even if I know for a fact that one of these women is lying, it doesn't speak to every single other woman in this case.
No. That's what we're doing. That's one thing. This is one at a time. Yeah. I refuse to lump together because there's just too many moving parts and there's too many people. So all I can do is sit there and look, I'm blonde. Okay. Alyte is blonde too, but she's the smart one. I could barely keep up with what's going on. So all I can do is just, go all in, focus on one and deal with it. And on that note, you mentioned Ashley, and this is one of 3 Ashleys, by the way, because you have Ashley Morgan Smith line, you have Ashley Gore,
Walters,
who's known as who's actually Illma Gore, her whatever, nom de plume, and then you have Ashley Walters, who was his former assistant. All 3 are involved now. Ashley Gore, or Illma Gore, is an interesting one. And even Spidey's like, why are you having me look at this? We'll get to it. Illma Gore, from what I understand from sources, definitely was intimate with Marilyn Manson, but she is not accusing him directly of abusing her. She is a ringleader in the with all the other women.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
She is putting forth the charges and helping round everybody up, etc., or has been accused.
Is she a plaintiff?
She's
she's a defendant.
She's one of the named defendants in the defamation case.
Okay.
Case. So
she does
Marilyn
matter.
Manson, Brian Warner, professionally known as Marilyn Manson, filed his. We refer to it as the defamation case, but really it's mostly an intentional infliction of emotional distress case. He named Evan Rachel Wood and Ashley Gore, aka Illma Gore, as the 2 defendants. Basically, the main claims are, there's a number of them there that includes like hacking into computers and social media profiles, and then also trying to impersonate people over the internet, including Marilyn Manson, trying to make it look like he's emailing himself links to CP or other sort of illicit material. And then he accuses Illma Gore of swatting him at one point. And then he also, but the heart of it is this creation of this FBI letter and use of this FBI letter, which if you look at it, it does look incredibly suspect. I will say, like, I'm right there with you, Spidey. Like I've been very careful and very diligent in going through this particular case. A lot of people want to say that this is like Amber Heard 2.0, but every case has to be treated differently, right? It's different facts, different law, even different jurisdiction. And so anyway, but I will say that looking at the FBI letter or purported FBI letter, there's nothing about it that looks official, that looks like this actually came from the FBI. And this having been purportedly used in trying to recruit women, according to the complaint. I'm taking all of this as the allegations coming from the complaint. And then there's this alleged conspiracy to basically drum up their claims together to come up with these claims, like Eric was talking about these memories that supposedly came out of nowhere after like 10 years of not seeing him, and that they were supposedly repressed. That's one thing that I've been wanting to set up a conversation with a psychologist or a psychiatrist to talk about that particular claim that accusation, because that's particularly interesting, and I don't feel like I have the expertise to be able to say like no, like that's absolutely not true. So or whatever.
Anyway,
or vice versa.
Okay, to jump to the chat. I don't know for sure, but I did get some confirmation that they, for very briefly, they had an encounter, Manson and Gore, and there was a weird overlap. I don't know all of it. Okay, I'm not saying this is public or anything else out there. Illma, in fact, was dating Evan Rachel Wood. That everyone agrees with, knows, and understands. It is acknowledged in the lawsuit, etc. So the other part is just some information from an insider. Could be wrong. Don't know. Everybody, by the way, that's part of the problem with this is there's a lot of insiders don't know the full truth of anybody, and there's a lot of agendas. But I do want to visit Ashley from last week because I dropped a bombshell on Rob and Spidey that they enjoyed very much. They loved having this dropped on them. Actually, there was two of them. One of them was a series of, I'll say DMs. You know, they say text DMs. We're using texts and DMs interchangeably, just to clarify to everyone.
Oh, interchangeably? We're there?
I use the terms interchangeably, yes. I'm not Amber Heard. People could still result that they're the same thing. Private messages. Anyway, within that, she has denied that was her and has claimed, I believe, that her phone was hacked or something else. And that's why I brought the pictures up that were also on the internet. But I'm going to go with one more thing. Just, let's say that all of that is true. We'll just go with one other little bit, and let's listen to her and let her tell us a couple things.
It was during like a rape where it was something with like during like a rape where it was something with like a struggle and an elbow, and I flew the 17 hours back to Thailand or Bangkok, wherever I was going and I went to the doctor when I.
Okay, first off, I'm going to go right to Spidey. Are there any problems with that?
It's laggy. I'm having a hard time seeing it. I don't know if it's laggy on everyone's end, but it was like
it
super
is
choppy.
for me as well.
Oh, you could hear it, right?
Why don't you play it? See if you can play it one more time.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
It
sure.
might catch up.
I'm trying to sort of follow and go ahead.
It was during like a rape where it was something with like a struggle and an elbow, and I flew the 17 hours back to Thailand or Bangkok, wherever I was going.
Could you at least get the words?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, just the words. Statement analysis. Spidey, what's wrong? It was like there was an elbow or the boot, or I mean,
It's a lot of guessing.
really is. I was going back to Bangkok or somewhere. I mean, so that's all. That's a problem.
Question marks. Yeah. Okay.
But this isn't the heavy part. I'm just pointing out problems earlier.
Yeah. Listen, I want to play devil's advocate here. I have heard traumatic stories told that way, where things are missing and I'm not sure what it was and something hit me. Like if we jumped on Amber Heard for the amount of over specificity she had, like to me, yeah, fine. There are certain things you might want to remember more, but to me, that's not the worst thing she's ever said, because I have seen people recall things and they're missing. They're not sure what it is. They can't remember. And it's kind of
things, but this is everything, including where she flew to what country.
Yeah,
I mean,
Eric,
there's a lot of steps here, but that's fine. There's more to come.
Yeah.
As well.
Just a quick question. Can I, and I don't want to spoil any of your fun here. And by fun, I mean torture. Can we have any context? Like she starts into that. It was this blink.
Okay,
I have no idea what was said before that.
This is part of the documentary, Phoenix Rising. She is with a group of accusers. They're all together, and they're trading stories.
Okay.
So, and I believe that after this week, I want to go into Phoenix Rising and what's going on there and the different stories and things like that. Kind of a nice wrap up. But I'll continue here because at this point delivers itself.
And I went to the doctor when I get there, and
Video.
I had like a fracture.
No, we can't see it.
Oh, you just got to tell me earlier. All right. Sorry.
I'm going to remind you every time you say we're going to continue, I'm going to say, put the video up.
Okay. I need the help.
And I went to the doctor when I get there, and I had like a fracture in my nose. And then I'm carved.
Probably
like,
the same dirty
I'm
white
carved.
brand.
I have fat carved on my thigh.
No, no, I have a brand too.
I have on my inner thigh. It was
Okay, so
I don't like that. I'm not a huge fan of this sort of sitting around in a circle and comparing war stories when it comes to something like this. It would be a lot. I don't want to say better, worse. There's no better, there's no worse, but it would be more accurate and reliable if each person were to tell their story independently, because what this can happen is they could play off each other's narrative. And, you know, I mean, I want to give everyone a chance to talk, but I'd love to talk a little bit about when.
Oh,
when
we will. Just 30 more seconds because I just want to deliver the point home to finish her up.
Yeah.
The key point out of that I want you to remember is she said about her nose being fractured from the injury that was dealt, blah, 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 right?
And she did say went to a doctor, confirmed. She said went to doctor, broken nose.
Correct. So I assume that we have medical records and that could come at some point. Let's hope. But this is a very important point here.
You would cut like.
Man, I can't hear it. All right, it's very quiet. Sorry, folks.
My ribs, he didn't hit my face. Like he you know, I was a model as
Well.
a job. He didn't hit my face. He definitely cut my.
I think it's enough,
Well,
right?
That contradicts her previous statement.
I
100%.
think it does, kind of, and that I think is significant. So that's what I wanted to point out. I'm not sure which one took place first. I think the Phoenix one took place first, and the People second. I'm not sure though, because you know I don't know when they're recording which film or what have you. But yeah, in the as Manson cases, I've had her on with me a few times. The thigh comment also, you know, it's like one. Well, she didn't mention fat here. Just
Well, one of them said cut, one of them said brand, and then I'm with Spidey on this. You put a bunch of people in a room.
This is part of the problem.
Confirmation bias just starts free flow, and people. Oh, it's crazy how that happens.
And that's why at trial you don't have witnesses talking to each other. That's the exact reason why you have that rule, is so that they don't start shifting their stories so that they just magically fit with one another when they shouldn't otherwise because of accuracy. But do you guys know about the checklist, the alleged checklist?
Yes, I do, but they don't.
I don't know jack about this case.
Okay. So another allegation from.
Sorry, before you get to the checklist, there's one point to add to what you said, because the rule on witnesses and excluding people because you don't want their stories to come together the same. There's another part to that rule as well, which is where if a piece has been testified to, if someone hears it, they will pick up where that leaves off, because in their mind, they believe that what they heard is so close to their story, while there might be differences, that they can just continue on from where this one left off, rather than actually articulate what happened, which might be inconsistent. So that's another part of that coin, but I agree with you. That's bad. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, Lita.
No, that's okay.
That's
So in the complaint, Marilyn Manson also alleges that there was a checklist that Evan Rachel Wood and or Illma Gore gave to all of these women ahead of time and had them fill out like this whole form, and where they said like their name, whether they were a spouse or a partner or a fan or whatever, and then like went through all of these boxes for them to check as to what allegations they had for like specific activities that he had done to them. And so that can be looked at as in two possible ways. One of them is, you know, if you want to be charitable, you can look at it and say, well, this is, you know, these are women who are coming forward. They're particularly anxious about coming forward against what they perceive as a powerful man, you know, and they want to, you know, find support in just sort of organizing these claims that they already understand exist. The other way of looking at that is they are providing a menu of accusations for them to choose from and to determine what they want to accuse him of. So, and the way that they found this was Illma Gore's sister, Brighton Gore, had Ilma's old iPad that was cracked that Ilma apparently had left behind at their cousin's house that they had both been staying at. And so she just, when Ilma left, she left a number of things at the house and just never came back for them, according to what Brighton says. And so Brighton says that she found the checklist. She found, this is it. Yeah, that's what the checklist looks
Eat
like.
this.
And then she found like text messages through Signal on this iPad. She found a lot of very interesting things that are a little sketchy.
And if you look at it, you're like, wow, these terms, I've heard them and I keep hearing them from the same, from different people. Very similar, very specific things.
I'm going to talk a lot today about memory, and Alyte, I'm really glad you brought that up because I've done a lot of research on memory. Like my degree, my degree isn't in therapy, but it is in social psychology. So memory is 100% part of that. And so let's start with the list. And I've got a whole ton of different things I want to talk about with memory, and I'll do it in increments, so it won't be overbearing. But no, let's go to the checklist, Eric. Go up to the checklist.
Well, I got it right here. You'll see it even easier.
Is that uploaded on the share drive?
Out. What?
Okay, so let's look at this. Here's what I want to talk about. The brain is really, really bad at identifying negative, and I'll give you a great example. Do not think of a pink elephant. What do we all think?
No, it's automatic, and that's NLP.
Pink elephant.
NLP depends on that.
NLP absolutely depends on that. Like with hypnotists who do hypnotherapy, a lot of the time they squeeze the suggestions into sentences because the mind doesn't pick up what's happening. It picks up that image. So if I'm someone who had an experience with Marilyn Manson, and maybe there was something, maybe once he stepped out of line, I'm given this questionnaire. Let's look at the list. So we look at the first one, and it says rape, and then right after that it says blood drinking. The moment we hear blood drinking, there isn't a single one of us who's not imagining, except if you have aphantasia, which a certain percentage of population does have, and you can't build that image in your head. But a vast majority of us, when we hear blood drinking, we're imagining someone drinking blood or ourselves drinking blood. Now, there's a certain percentage of your viewers have aphantasia, and they're going, wait, you guys can actually build that image in your mind? Yeah, most people can. So it builds an image. Now, I move down the list and I see something like, for example, given a dress code, right? And I remember a time that when I was with Marilyn Manson, we were going to go to an event, and he said something like, no, don't wear that one, wear the other one that you bought last week. It's nicer. But because I've seen this on this list, it contorts the memory of that. So I'm trying to now squeeze behaviors into this list that I maybe would have never said on my own volition if that wasn't in front of me. So I have a big problem with a list like this because it forces thoughts into our heads and it forces behaviors into this list. Hate it.
Yeah, what you're saying reminds me of why there are some methods of doing a police lineup that are extremely controversial, and reasons why convictions have been overturned in the past is for that exact reason, that like they set up a lineup in a particular way to like point to one person. So the victim, has been in one way or another has been framed to basically point their attention towards that one person through whatever conversations that were had beforehand or whatever. And that's exactly, it's the ability to suggest memory through inference.
100%.
And yeah, that's what a list like this runs the risk of. It's absolutely true.
Well, that a list, hold on, not just a list, but a list and a meeting and the recruitment. These things, they add up. Like what, the list could technically be a whole, well, they already told me all this stuff, so I just need to collect the information like a database because I need to say, okay, well, it's 3 people that had this, 4 that had that. I'm a little cynical. That's very odd to do.
Is there any indication? Is there any indication as to whether one person basically did all the check marks after an interview, or whether this is signed or written by each individual person that submitted one?
I don't know. That's a good question. I know that there are some notes that were taken here, and this is from what I understand, Ilma's writing. and there's some questioning about the coordination and writing and orders, the order being changed, and the whole FBI letter. There's text going back and forth saying, "Oh, this is better and that is better." With the letter. Now, why all this is significant, and we'll get into body language soon, folks, so we don't go too far off track. There's been an anti-slap motion that just came out, and I believe Alyte just has covered that. And somebody, please watch it. But the high points I want to mention here is Evan Rachel Wood never denied that there was a fake FBI letter in that anti-slap motion, and they also didn't deny.
Though.
Does she?
She does.
I thought it was. I thought she denied the knowledge of that, but not that it existed.
No, there is a part of the anti-slap motion where she says, like, you know, even if this FBI letter were fake, and it's not. It says, like, in parentheses, like, and it's not. But, like, even if, then XYZ, like, this still would fall under anti-slap. So sorry, well, I undercut that part. But
I don't think Ashley or Illma denied that was her iPad. There was a question of whether it was a gift or not, but
that's true. That is
never
true.
denied that was in fact her iPad. That's significant. And I understand that legally speaking, whatever you're going to say, well, it doesn't matter. It's not relevant to evidence here, blah, blah, blah. But to me, as a person who says, do I believe the guy or do I believe them? Is it possible they're lying about him? The fact she's not denying that is her iPad or the contents is troubling, in my opinion. So anyway,
really quick, I want to throw this in for those of you interested in what Alita was talking about with misidentifying because of false memory. Look up Jennifer Thompson. That's a real case, completely documented, where she was sexually assaulted by someone, and immediately after, she was shown a number of pictures of who it could have been, and the person who actually did it was not amongst those pictures, so she just picked one that looked close enough. And she said, that's who it is. So now what happens is she leaves that room. And now when she thinks back to the trauma, she inserts the image that she saw into that memory. So when she's in court and she's presented with this innocent person from the picture and the actual perpetrator in front of her, she identifies the one from the picture as the guy who did it. And more than a decade later, when DNA testing is what it is, they reopen the case and find that she misidentified the person based on that picture. So we can absolutely create memories that never happened. Someone in the comments mentioned the Bugs Bunny experiment. That's a great experiment where people were asked to recall their first time at Disneyland. And as they were being asked questions, they said, do you remember seeing Bugs Bunny? And all these people said, yeah, I remember going up to him and I got a picture. But Bugs Bunny isn't Disney. He's Warner Brothers. He couldn't have been there. So just the question.
Any Disney nerd knows that.
One more name, Spidey.
But all
one
I'm
more
saying
name
is, just the question, do you remember your experience with Bugs Bunny, can create a memory that doesn't exist. There's also the who was the hot air balloon? Kimberly Wade, the hot air balloon study. They showed people fabricated Photoshop pictures of them as a kid in front of a hot air balloon, and all of a sudden, these people are remembering these detailed memories of this day, and I was eating hot dogs, and the day never happened. It didn't exist.
That's crazy.
Okay, Elizabeth Loftus. Everyone should look up her name.
Yeah, Loftus and Palmer. That's her studies. Loftus, and she worked with Loftus and Palmer. One of the best studies on how you fabricate memories with words. So they showed people a video of two cars colliding, and then some people were asked how fast were the cars going when they bumped into each other versus contacted each other versus hit versus smash.
The artist who painted.
And in the way the question was asked, the word that was used to describe the collision affected people's memories to where people who were asked.
Right, and the fault. It was used for fault too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why the checklist is making me so curious, because the checklist itself, everything in that checklist is a very vague and broad single word term. This is not created by an attorney. I can tell you that. It wasn't created by law enforcement. I can also tell you that because they don't do that unless they're the one doing the interview. Because if they're giving you a document asking you to fill it out, they are actually giving you a description of what it is that these things are. Because it says, one of the elements says tortured. Well, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah,
that is
In
subject to
what
so many
way?
interpretations.
sure.
Yeah.
And so the question that comes back to this, and this is just me being done with this case. Has she given any explanation as to why they went out and gathered this information from all these different individuals?
So,
What was the
Evan
purpose?
Rachel Wood claims in her anti-slap motion that she actually didn't seek them out. It was when she started going around and testifying in front of Congress and testifying in front of the California State Senate and all of these other places about having been a survivor of DV, that she says that other women started coming out of the woodwork and contacting her. Now, this
Except for Greta Aurora and Paula
of course.
well,
Yeah,
and
except
the
for a
women coming
few.
forward that are saying, "Oh, here's my recruitment letter from Illma Gore,"
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
all in evidence.
and you know, if you've gone through the recent filings, you can see that there are emails from Illma Gore to Greta Aurora and others, you know, basically saying like, "Hey, do you want to join our group and Zoom or Skype in? And you know, you don't have to talk; you can just listen. But maybe you had the same experience." But it and it could be that both are kind of true, right? Like if you're looking at this, you know, like with the like as objective a way as possible and looking at it from every angle, it could be that Evan Rachel Wood had one or two women that reached out to her and said, "Oh, I had the same experience," and "Oh, are you talking about Marilyn Manson? Because I had that same experience," or I had another experience with Marilyn Manson. It could very well be that happened, and then that they were like, "Oh, there's a bunch of other people. I wonder who else we could find that had similar experiences." You know what I mean? Like it,
Yeah,
it
and they
could
happen
be
to
some
be
mix
with
of
the
both.
assistant who happened to have everybody he'd been with because she would have the phone numbers. Hey, can you fill in the blank such and such? So the same assistant gives Illma all the information. Illma's out recruiting. This is why it's so problematic because Spidey, right before we went on, Spidey's like, "How many of them are there?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's like 18 now." He's like, 18? Oh my, because the numbers, and that's part of the problem here. How do you make something so undeniable that it had to well, you pound the numbers. Can everyone be lying? Well, it gets more and more difficult. You know, same way as I was saying about the repressed memories. You can push back the other way, say, well, I mean, is everybody lying? But on that note, let's look at
You know what hold on,
What?
sorry. Before we go on, you know what I would do if I was Marilyn Manson's lawyers? And Rob and Alyte, you will tell me if this is even slightly legal to do this. I would have every single person who filled out that list sit down and refill the list, and I would show that they did not check the same answers.
Well, they're trying to do that. That would be part of the deposition.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of they're fighting the anti-slap because the slap is to say, no, we're going to toss this out. You can't do anything. They're saying, no, hell no. Look, we've got all this stuff, but we could prove to you that all this went down. Look, here's our evidence. Just let us talk to these people. Let us talk. And then that fills it out. Or am I describing it incorrectly?
No.
So yeah. There's 5 depositions that Marilyn Manson is asking for in order to respond to the anti-slap motions and oppose them so that he can continue on with this case with the claims that are subject to the anti-slap. Because there are some that they have not yet made any kind of opposition to. And when I say they, I mean Evan Rachel Wood and Illma Gore. So the anti-slap is just for like a number of the claims. It's not for all of them. So even if they win on the anti-slap, there still are some claims left over. So anyway, but so normally with anti-slap in California, discovery is the entire case is frozen. So discovery, there's no discovery as soon as there's an anti-slap motion on file. So because the whole idea is to protect defendants from being having to spend money and resources and life and whatnot on basically improper litigation. So anyway, but so Manson is having to request the ability to do some limited discovery. So he's getting 5. He wants 5 depositions, including Evan Rachel Wood, Illma Gore, and 3 other third parties. One of those is Michelle Langer, the FBI agent who is on the FBI letter, whose name and signature are on that. And he, based on the conversations that his attorney has had with with Agent Langer. She says, nope, I have nothing to do with that letter. So they want to do a deposition about that. They want to do a deposition with another Michelle who has a different last name, whose phone number was actually the one that was given on that FBI letter. So it's Michelle, so that when whoever calls, it's a Michelle that picks up, purportedly. Anyway, and then there's a third party that I can't remember at the moment that they want to depose. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah.
All right, so let's get to Illma, and I should introduce this real quickly, and then Rob can correct me when I try to start it without. Spidey said, "Why am I watching this this person on this video? What is this about? This is about being beat up or something over something completely non-related." Well, this is Illma Gore. She is a co-defendant. So she is extremely relevant. While she is not accusing Marilyn Manson of assaulting her personally, she is 100% locked in the conspiracy, as Manson is claiming, in recruiting the women, changing the documents, influencing Evan Rachel Wood and others into testimony, and she is a co-defendant. So I would say that her veracity is of utmost importance. Is she a truthful person or not? Is there anything sketchy about her? And I can tell you there's somebody in the chat that has written a nice long Medium piece that goes through an entire Illma Gore history, and she has some history. Here's one part of it. There are people who have brought it up that she may have inspired Jussie Smollett, the Juicy himself. So let's watch.
A nude portrait of Donald Trump says she was punched in the face by one of his supporters. Here's the painting Illma Gore made. She says the assault near her home in LA on Friday was a direct result of this painting.
Illma posted a photo on Instagram of the bruises which she suffered to her face, and Illma joins us now in the studio here in Los Angeles. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
You still got bruised, huh? In the red eye.
Thankfully, the swelling's gone down. And thankfully, it wasn't anything worse than a black eye.
How did a car full of Trump supporters, seemingly sort of randomly driving by, recognize you and jump out and do this?
I'm not sure if it was to do with the protests happening in Orange County.
Wait, were they wearing a MAGA hat? Were you eating Subway? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I got confused.
Or someone by my house has actually noticed me before and stalked me out, but I have had so many violent threats online through email, through social media, because of the painting.
And what did the threats say? I mean, give us a sense of the just horrible things
all
directed at you, but saying specifically about the painting.
I mean, one says specifically, this is a disgusting painting. You better put extra locks on your doors. You better watch your back. We're going to find your address.
Just tell me stop, so I know.
Yeah, stop. So there's a couple of things in terms of body language. First of all, she is quite non-reactive with her facial expressions. Most people, as they talk, the eyebrows go up more, the eyes illustrate more. Very, very stagnant there. Not much going on. There's a couple of things, though. When she was asked, tell us what kind of things they say, what kind of threats they make, we see her hands go up like this, and we see a quick mouth shrug, which is this tension. And this usually happens when I've always equated this to a nonverbal way of saying, I don't know what to say. There's too much to say. So, you might in a sad event, like a funeral or something, you might see people look at each other and sort of just give this, I don't know what to say. I don't have the words. But in this case, it happens when you're asked, give us some examples. And you just go, there's really a lot to say here. So I do believe she gets a lot of threats. As she starts listing them, as she's saying one of them, we see this chin forward thrust. You better stay home. And this is a very aggressive sort of thing. She's feeling that aggression. We're going to see this later when she's talking about other things as well. Look for that chin thrust. When she's feeling aggressive towards something, we see that sort of forward chin thrust. And it's not uncommon. This is something you see a lot in people who are, in moments of aggression. So we're seeing that there. Really not much besides that. She's quite stoic. She has an interesting aesthetic. You can totally discard this. It's not something I go by, but I'm just going to say it for clarity and completeness. In a lot of the body language or nonverbal programs that I've studied, we're told not to pay specific attention to tattoos that could be hidden. But in most cases, if someone elects to have tattoos on their face, on their neck, This is pretty much someone who isn't looking to conform. In most cases, isn't looking to fit in to the mass. They're very okay because you can hide tattoos on your arms, on your legs, and stuff, but when it's on your face, you can't. It's a big statement. So we are seeing, and you can take that for what it's worth.
I got to tell you something, Spidey, because this is gonna be. You're gonna be like, oh my god, are you kidding?
Like, are you getting good or are you getting bad?
Probably both. Before this, she was famous as an artist who was selling the opportunity that if you sent her X amount of dollars, she would tattoo whatever you wanted anywhere on her body.
Okay, so.
And it was.
People call us grifters for super chats.
I'm just saying. This is her thing before this incident and there was somebody who came out because she was supposed to donate the money to this charity, and they went back and forth before she finally got tattooed with a tattoo that at least I'd say 80% of America would find horribly offensive, so I won't state what it is, but it is very offensive. She eventually sort of got it, but yeah,
she did
it is the character. She did ultimately do it after a while.
So she's okay with having someone else dictate what goes on her body, no matter how offensive it is. So I'm not saying that's in no way me saying this is a bad thing. It's just this is someone who's totally okay expressing her complete individuality, and she's okay getting a reaction out of people for doing things that are very much outside the norm. So that's really interesting.
Did anyone else get the impression that she, and this is just me coming off of a trial, I hate witnesses like this because the interviewer is trying to ask a question and she is so eager to answer the question. She's nodding her head and cutting the interviewer off. She doesn't like the fact that she has to wait for the question to come. She wants just this big open-ended, tell us what happened. So there's an eagerness there. And as an interviewer, as an attorney, I hate examining people like this because I want to ask the question and you listen. She's not even listening to the question. She wants to start talking.
But she's
it's when you have to like remind them like, ma'am, remember that there's a court reporter here. They can't take what I'm saying and what you're saying at the same time. So please wait until I finish my question.
All right. Well, I thought the tattoo story is still relevant since you brought it up, and she very much is in the spotlight all the time. Has a big history of it. Before that, she was stripping for a cause, and anyway, I put a Medium article in the chat if any of the mods want to share it out as well. And we may go through that later. There's so much with Illma.
So Rob, when you say that she has like preset answers that she wants to give, regardless of what the question is, basically you're telling us she's pulling an Elaine Bredehoff.
And she doesn't like that she has to wait for the end of the question. She knows where the interview is going.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
I see what you're doing.
No,
you're not going to put Elaine in my head.
This isn't a tickle me Elaine.
You're not going to put Elaine in my head. You send me a tickle me Elaine, I'm going to kick you.
But I was going to say that, it's really unfortunate that Illma doesn't know about Amica cream because it really could have helped her with her eye injury
or a bruised tip.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
No, it's fine. We're all still sort of filtering through that and trying to get on with our lives.
And this interview obviously takes place shortly after the reported punch because it looks like she's still got some discoloration under her eye.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And you know what? Alita's making a joke, but consider that this bruise is at a place where some makeup could have made it a lot better. It's a choice to not. It's a choice to highlight.
I don't know though. This also could be. Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, the bruise could have looked better than this because I mean you can see that there's definitely some swelling there. Yeah, that's not going to be covered up with makeup, as we all know. Right. But yeah, that discoloration probably could have been covered up with some concealer or something like that if she had wanted to. But I mean, if she's there to talk about the bruise,
exactly,
it is kind of understandable that she would feel like.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. If I was her PR team, I would 100% say no, don't cover it up, let them see it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see.
Ridiculous things from shooting me in the head to rape. It's awful. It's horrible.
Did you expect this when you did the painting?
I mean, it's Donald Trump nude.
Right.
So I expected a reaction. I could have never imagined it to go this far.
The way it's all, the painting.
She could never imagine.
It was a non-answer.
She could never imagine. Yeah, I'm sure you're going to paint something that'll get no reaction. You want boring pedestrian art. You're just a beach artist who's just doing caricatures. No, wait, nobody's going to say anything.
There's a comment. Sorry, really quick. There's a comment in the chat that says she's sitting on the side that highlights the bruise. I considered that. It's not her. It's not her choice.
She didn't place herself though. Yeah.
We don't get on news shows and decide where we're going to sit. There's a chair. You sit there. That's it. She didn't make that choice.
There is something in the language that she uses when they asked if you expected this to get punched, etc. When she comes back and says, "Well, it's a nude portrait of Donald Trump," it's self-aggrandizing in that it basically refers to this grand piece that she created and that she did this for the purpose of being offensive, and she expected a very vitriolic response to it, whether it was a fist coming at her or etc. She did this with that purpose of instigating a response that was violent.
Good call.
Yeah, but it sounds like what she's saying is that the level of the reaction was not what she anticipated, but whether you believe that or not is up to personal interpretation.
Yeah, it's not body language. That's just me saying she's full of shit. I'm sorry, because there are some general things. It's like if you are an artist, it's like, oh, I did this show tonight thinking that only 10 people would show up. I'm just shocked. He's like, no, hell no. I invited Spidey and LegalBytes and the big guns. I mean, duh. I mean, come on. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you know, Eric, you're making a great point. Like people talk like when we do analysis, we're telling you what we're feeling in our gut. In most cases, we're really not. We're calling out behaviors, and sometimes it aligns with personal preference and personally what we think and intuitively what we want to believe. Like in Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, yeah, I'm a Johnny Depp fan. I barely knew who Amber Heard was. But if we go back just to my case before that and the one I did last week, Will Smith, I've always been a big fan of Will Smith. I love Will Smith as an actor, but I see the behaviors and I still have to reluctantly call out. And by the way, if you guys haven't seen Eric and Nate's video on the Will Smith apology, go watch it. Incredible.
Oh, thanks, man.
Love the heck out of that. Like both you and Nate, there was almost, and it's weird because sometimes you debate things, but there was nothing you said that I didn't agree with in both cases. So, and Eric, we agreed that there were moments where it wasn't very genuine. There were moments where it was, and there was moments where it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult for me to call that out because I'm a fan of Will Smith. So what you just said, the joke you just made, Eric, that you're just calling out the BS. Most of the time with behavior analysis, if I see something that I feel is BS, I won't call that out because I can't give you that cluster. I can't prove it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll just say it, and then I'll say I'm saying it. It's just how I feel.
Absolutely. It's very valid.
The proportions and all the rest of it. I mean, was this small hands,
and correspondingly small everything else.
She's so proud. Look at that. She's proud.
Yeah.
Well done. Okay. Was the intention here to mock him?
It actually was a political statement.
That was a Duchenne smile, by the way. Yeah, that was so proud.
That was so. When you start something with actually, like she goes, was the point to mock him? It was actually I don't even care what you say next. It was to mock him.
Exactly. Well, it's like but. Actually, and but go with that, right? If you ever hear the word but, everything said prior to the but is irrelevant. And but can be translated to behold the underlying truth.
Mm-hmm. Or however. Same thing with however.
Yes. And that was from Mark McClish that I first heard that. He wrote about statement analysis. But I love that. Behold the underlying truth. So everything prior, irrelevant. Actually, yes, same thing. It's a...
Well, actually, hold on. No. I think it's the opposite in this case. Sorry, we might disagree on this, Eric. But Eric, we might disagree on this. I believe that in this case, it's the opposite. I believe that the intention of this painting was 100% to mock.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And actually, it's just like sort of adding to that, like, because she wants to take the heat off the fact that she wanted to mock him. That's what I think. So she's like, oh, yeah, they're on to me. Actually, let me educate you as to what it really is. But that's what it actually was.
Well, so actually, it's tricky because, statement analysis on actually. And see, we're nerds. Okay, we'll move on. I promise, folks. Actually is like, actually went to the store would imply you really wanted to do something else. And so that fits into what you're saying.
It's
because, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, and it makes sense though that she would want to take the heat off of it because then that would make her look more like a victim. If that's, because it's, if she's like, well, yeah, I was doing this to get a rise out of people. And then people are like, all right.
Wait, somebody who wants to look like a victim? I'm confused. Why would that be relevant, Alyte? Why would that matter, Alita? What could there be any foreshadowing here at all? Hold on. Let's
Also,
But it wasn't
also
on
by
his-
acknowledging that it was to mock him, the spotlight is now on Donald Trump and not on her anymore, and she doesn't like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Oh yeah, but she loves her painting.
Immature kind of campaign. It was actually on the way we perceive our physical selves and the way we put definitive kind of ideologies on the way we actually view what's in our pants. The painting has the same meaning even if I did it with female genitalia or a big don, and you can still be a massive prick despite what's in there. That's kind of the idea.
I don't think we can use that word. We're on basic cable, but it's okay.
It's out there now. So
There's been a pretty big reaction here in the United States. There was this anonymous lawsuit. The work of art was banned by Facebook. Is that right?
By the way, Spidey, anybody, I'm actually watching the video, so I don't see you. That's why you got to tell me stop.
There was a lot of this for me. There was a lot of it's all this actually stuff. It's like me, actually, me, actually, I, and me, and I, actually, I. And I think this, and I think that. It's very self-serving. Who did she call? Who is the prick? Who is she talking about?
Trump.
Okay,
Great.
the painting. Remember Small Hands? Okay, the painting was saying that his appendage was especially small. That was the whole purpose of it, was to show that he was the opposite of hung.
I don't understand what she was saying though about how it's actually representative of how all of us in society see ourselves.
That's the artist BS coming through. Like, I'm going to give you the higher meaning message now for my little. Yeah, but it's a juvenile painting, okay?
The thing about that is you don't pick a polarizing character to represent everyone.
Right. Exactly.
That's just not what you do. You would put somebody like Tom Hanks in there.
Yeah. No, but you make the argument that a polarizing character, because you are so talented, you could make this polarizing character represent everybody.
Sure.
Like this.
Also, I'm sorry. And Alita, you're gonna have to educate me on this. She says the message could have just as easily been portrayed with a female body. What is the equivalent of a tiny wiener on a female?
Flat chested, maybe, but I don't think there's anything to that degree.
I don't want to think about that.
A modern feminist is not gonna answer that question, right? Like someone like I imagine Illma Gore to be, based on what I know about her. She's not gonna say that there's any like stereotypical part on a woman that, like, if it doesn't fit the society's, like what society says it should be, like a very voluptuous woman, or with like bigger hips and a small waist or what have you. You know what I mean? Like I feel like she would be like, well, but every woman's body is beautiful and all women should love their bodies in all shapes and sizes. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know that someone like her would answer a question like that.
But that's exactly my question. Like when she makes the statement, this could have just as easily be done with a woman. I don't think so.
Like phallically impaired, choice name for this topic, is saying it's word salad. And that's all I'm saying is she's like, oh, this looks really juvenile. And I, as Eric, am saying, yes, it's a juvenile freaking point. Okay. You're saying he's got a small appendage, whatever. Good job. Ha ha ha. We get it. His farts stink, whatever. But she's trying to elevate this to like, no, but this really has a real meaning. Like, how many times have you heard, well, such and such or her? It's like, well, let me cover it up to say that, oh, it's really wider. Like, what was it? Adam Carolla actually had this funny clip that he kept playing for years. It was like a Hall of Fame running back talking about how he would smash him in the face or her to go by, but because he was so trained up in the whole thing of like, oh, I can't just say males, even though it's like, wait, whose face are you smashing here on the field? So I kind of feel it's the same thing here, that honestly it's, no, here's my higher artistic meaning, because it kind of looks dumb.
But she is very good. She's very good at giving an interview. Her body posture maintains consistency. She's not moving around a lot. She's not giving you a lot as far as, I mean, she's solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and the galleries here just wouldn't show it.
I mean, a lot of galleries here had security concerns because I was receiving so many threats, and there's just a controversy surrounding it. And as soon as I got an offer to show it in London, because no one would show it here, I just took it there straight away. And I had, anonymous suits from Facebook, a copyright suit, which is ridiculous because it's my artwork and I own it. It's my own expression.
By the way, she actually claimed copyright on the content on the iPad. I believe I read somewhere.
She had a tweet about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is even better.
Basically saying like you can't use any of the content that's on there for any reason at all, which I mean, if that were the case, there would be no copyright litigation ever.
Anyway, I just had to point that out. So that's kind of claiming that, yes, do not use my copyrighted forged documents. Those are my forged documents. That's my art.
I mean, it also would imply that they're fictional as well.
And somebody's asking, she is an Aussie, so that's why, she is an Australian, has an Aussie accent.
And for some reason, they won't tell me who the third party is, even though I'm requesting that information. I had to give this third party my address, my phone number, my, every personal information that I had. And I don't know who it is.
How frightening has this been?
Yeah,
that's a little bit, not much. It's not the worst thing in the world, but that's more victim language. Like I had to give this person my personal thing. And yeah, that's how it works. When you make a claim and you try to prove that something belongs to you, they're going to ask you for your address. It's due process. But she's like, I had to give this third party person my name and my address and my phone number. And yeah, you made a copyright claim that we've all done that. It's just sort of like, again, that sort of woe is me language of like, I can't believe, could you believe that I do all these things? Yeah, it's the process. You don't have to do it.
I agree.
For you, and beyond that, I mean, talk to me about the impact it's had on your own creative expression. And I know you've expressed concern for other creatives.
Yeah, at first I was frustrated for myself, obviously, and I became extremely upset. But ultimately, when I got myself out of that funk, I realized how important this is for creatives and how sad it is that, Facebook was censoring us, and creatives often use Facebook as a social media outlet to get our stuff out to other people and our ideas. And to even be hit in the face, as sad as it is and as horrible as it is, I would hate for other artists to think that because of their expression, they could be under the same, scrutiny and the same kind of violence.
The threats, basically.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story.
That stretch was very believable. I do believe that she is a big advocate for artists and expressing themselves. We did see an eyebrow flash, which is, again, she was very, very stoic with her eyebrows. But there towards the end, when she was talking about, a lot of artists do use Facebook. We saw that eyebrow flash. That's a need for approval, oddly, for someone who really doesn't seek approval. Eric, you know this. Greg Hartley talks about this all the time. Eyebrows up is we look to connect. We look for that approval. We look for that belonging. So
it's about her art. That she cares about. She cares about that.
So there's a sense of belonging with artists. I feel like she believes that she's that's her sisterhood, her brotherhood, her family, artists. She speaks for artists. She feels for artists. I think art, we can all see that, is a very, very strong part of her identity. And right there at the end, we are getting authentic connection with that part of the message.
Was there anything that you guys saw?
One of the things that this document,
she does do a quick, she's talking about the art, and then she does a flash look up access, and then she comes back down and says to even get hit in the face. Like, was there anything there, or is that just her basically saying, remember where you are?
It could be a memory anchor. It could be a sort of recall. It could be a quick. It's interesting. I didn't even see it, so I would like to, but I don't know if I want to play the same clip again or.
No, we gotta do. I don't know if we'll get to Evan Rachel if we don't. Because I know we got a.
And then Rob, what's the word she said? Hit in the face.
To get hit in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe she was just recalling a script or. I was kind of switching gears to a different conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And now we're going to the main act, or that sounds terrible. We're going to the most popular person of the lot, or the most famous person of the accusers.
Most central, you could say.
I don't. Okay, I'll throw my opinion out there. I think Illma Gore is the most central.
Well, okay. I see what you're saying is in like bringing all of these individual women together.
Wow.
Okay.
None of this happened until Evan Rachel Wood met Illma Gore. I will just say that. If you look at the timeline, and Evan Rachel Wood's language changed, everything changed. Somehow or another, she meets Illma Gore. Things happen. Just go figure.
Okay.
And you look at and we will be, I'm going to project. Everybody's, please sub, because we will be going into Gore versus Gore. And you'll get to see, well, one of the people who has the most trouble with Illma is her twin.
Well,
and
did
it's
you
odd
get
to have a twin sister.
get the impression from her interview just as a whole and all the statements that she made and the controversy and the tattooing that she likes to be at the center of controversy?
It's possible.
Does her twin sister have a horrifying tattoo that was designed by someone else?
No, she actually has some really good art on Instagram.
She does. Her sister's very talented. And by the way, Illma can actually draw. I mean, I can sit there and mock and say it's a juvenile shot of Trump, but it looks like Trump. It's his expression. I mean, I'm not going to, she does have ability.
No doubt about it.
So I got to be fair on it.
Yeah, no, none of this has to do with her talent as an artist. She's very talented.
All right. So this next clip is interesting.
The things that this documentary has really implanted in my brain is that things take time. They take time to realize you're not in a good situation. They take time. And one of the problems is in the legal situation is the statute of limitations. And that it's 1 to 3 years.
In California, it was 1 to 3 years.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
You work so hard on yourself, but then you work so hard for other people. And you go and you start this journey of legally trying to change the system because you so eloquently explain that it takes time for people to realize that they've been a victim, that they've been gaslit, to have the bravery. You have written now what is called the Phoenix Act, and you have changed legislation in California, which is incredible.
Objection, leading the witness.
By the way, this is almost good for a baseline here because I don't think there's anything controversial. Whatever she did, work in the act, she did this. You're getting her response to success.
There is something which is body language 101, and it's gravity-defying movements. So this is Joe Navarro, the most sort of recognized author in body language, FBI, interrogator for 25 years, counterterrorism, I believe. But anyways, FBI, I'm not sure. I think it was counterterrorism, but anyways, FBI interrogator for 25 years. And one of the staples of his work is gravity-defying movements. So when Drew brought up the law that was changed, we see this sort of hand go up like this. And anything that goes up is usually very positive emotions. So sometimes you see suddenly the foot go up and sort of do like this, like it rests on the heel and does a sort of dance. And you can see this on the phone. And it's funny, I was in the Bahamas once walking with Chase Hughes, and he points to a girl. He goes, gravity defying. And I'm like, what? He goes, gravity defying. Her foot was doing that. And seconds later, she goes, wait, where? Oh my God. Ah! And she was talking to her friend who was coming to join her. So whenever we see those upward movements, it's usually positive. So there we're seeing a very classic, everything moved up. When she brought up it used to be this, but it changed because of me. And it's not just that, everything goes up. So it's gravity defying. We're literally like sort of flying of joy. So that's,
okay, so that's like a sign of joy then.
Big joy, big happiness, pride as well. She's got this sort of hand up usually means me, right? I have a question, attention on me. So she's taking that as well with that hand up. So it's like she's very proud of herself in that moment.
Okay.
Yeah, excellent. Anyway, but would you agree this is kind of good for a baseline, or it's helpful for a baseline? There's nothing to.
What do you have anything about her pursing her lips at the end of that last part?
Yeah, I was sort of talking about that. It is a very pursed-lipped smile. So she has that smile, but it's not your typical Duchenne, because with a Duchenne smile, it's a lot more relaxed. You see a lot more of the lip. So it's not like this with the crow's feet. It's like this very sort of thin line. And that usually tension in the lips is withheld opinion, holding something back. So she could be happy, but there's something she wants to add. There's something she wants to say. There's no way for me to know what it is, but great catch, Alyte.
Thank you.
the moment that you said, I am willing to do this, not just for myself, but other people?
It was when I found out there were other people. And this is the part that actually makes me the most emotional, is when I talk about how desperately people need help. When I first started speaking about my abuse, I was still sort of in the midst of processing it. When I testified in front of Congress for another bill for the Sexual Assault Survivors Bill of Rights, I thought that was going to be it. I thought that was going to be the only time I told my story. I was going to leave it there, walk away, move on. And then
There's something about it now. I think her face shape is just not straight, because it's almost a contempt that she really is almost tilted whenever she's talking, Spidey. I don't know if you notice that, but just.
I mean, you pause it in an interesting place. It's slightly asymmetric, but it's not something that like I would look too much into, because, you know, when we talk, things happen, things move. I'm not seeing a significant cluster. It's an interesting note. I'm not seeing like a deep enough cluster for me. You might talk to another behavior analyst that'll say in their experience they're seeing something, but for me, I'm not seeing a cluster enough to be like, something about that doesn't add up. I do feel like part of her, you know, at that moment maybe didn't have the intention of going much further past that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it's her natural smile, because if you watched her smile previously, the right side tends to go up faster than the left, no matter what. Like it's a little bit off. People don't always smile the same. But yeah, her blink rate just shot through the roof, and you can tell that she's getting stressed.
And the pacifying,
yep. the hand wringing and the blink rate just shot through the roof.
Yeah, so that's a great catch worth mentioning. We're not seeing just a slight, subtle sort of massaging. She's going up and down and around, and here we call this hand wringing. Like she's literally washing her hands without water or soap. This is highly stressful. The blink rate, Rob's absolutely right, went up. I think there's even a couple of slower sort of eye blocks there. So yeah, this is a stressful topic, for no doubt about it. Does it necessarily mean that it's deceptive? No, you'd have to ask a lot more questions. It's very reasonable that someone who suddenly starts to talk about abuse is going to display signs of stress. Makes perfect sense.
Okay. And everybody, while we're doing this, kind of look at her spell casting gestures. It's very interesting. Just take note of it. Somebody had commented in a comment before, spell casting. I love the term.
I saw, after I testified, all of these stories popping up on the internet. And when I saw that, it was like a bomb went off. And I could tell by the details in their stories, they knew things that nobody else knew. I knew they were telling.
Drew's great.
Drew's the best. Yeah.
Did you see her check for the reaction out of Drew before she did the gesture?
100% confirmation glance. Somebody in the comments said she's avoiding eye contact with Drew while she's telling the story. So let's talk a little bit about eye contact. A lot of people think that when we lie, we avoid eye contact. The studies show that there's no truth to that. In fact, some liars, and this was Samantha Mann who did the study, some liars increase eye contact because they want to see how their lie is landing. So the fact that
Amber Heard,
what's that?
Amber Heard did that.
Yeah, absolutely. So she kept checking in with the jury to see how is this sticking. So absolutely, and we have to call out the opposite. So when she's recalling this story and what happened and these people came out, it's very normal to be not creating eye contact. If she was looking at Drew the whole time while she said that, I personally would find that suspicious. She's not. She's here. She's saying what happened in order. To me, the big problem here isn't, I told my story and all these women came out. It's this moment where Rob saw it. She's looking at Drew like, you following this? There's this big thing coming. Oh my God, I heard these stories and I realized those things happened to me. And that goes back to everything we were talking about earlier about memory implantation. So up until that moment, nothing. But when she heard those stories, she started going back and filtering through those lenses, her own memories, and going, oh my God, he did that to me too. Oh my God, that happened to me too. And listen, it's not reliable. Memories that far back are not reliable. We talked about a bunch of studies earlier, Jennifer Thompson, the case study, Lotfus and Palmer, how moldable memories are. And when somebody gives you that narrative, again, remember, do not think of a pink elephant. The moment I give you that sort of suggestion, you take that and you build it So, oh, he did this to you, he did that to you. Now I'm building it into my own memory. I'm not saying she's lying. I'm not saying she's dishonest. I'm just saying that her memories, her recount of the events is scientifically highly unreliable.
Well, and there's a visual confirmation that she tries to do as she's doing it. When she's doing this and she's saying popping up everywhere, she's trying to create in your mind like the visual of the popping so you can actually, you are in that moment with her.
Yeah. Nice.
All right.
The truth. And there was this amazing moment of
Can you just bring that back a little?
liberation at
I want to see that blocking gesture.
Oh man.
What's happening? What was that?
Yeah, I hit the back arrow and it took me to the document. So
Why is
And
Eric
there
that
was this
excited? No, a little more, a little
amazing
more.
moment
Yeah, a
more.
little further.
I just want to see when that eye blocking gesture hits.
all right. So okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
there, walk away, move on. And then I saw, after I testified, all of these stories popping up on the internet. And when I saw that, it was like a bomb went off. And I could tell by the details in their stories, they knew things that nobody else knew. I knew they were telling the truth. And there was this amazing moment of
Pause.
Wow.
That's a hell of an
One
eye
thing
blocking
I just-
gesture. That's
Wow.
a bury your head.
The eyes rolling around when she said, "I knew that what they were saying was true." What is that? What is
That's
that?
awesome.
Eye rolling in my work, I describe it as familiar irritation. Like if something's happened a
Here
lot.
we go
again. So maybe it's like, maybe she's told this a lot before and she's like, okay, here we go with this old shtick again. But you're right, Alyte. It is a misplaced thing. But yeah, Eric, let's talk about that freaking giant blocking, sort of eye blocking with the hand.
And the timing, what she was saying right
why
there
is it
too.
there? It's weird. Listen, it's weird. She goes, can you imagine? Let's all just sort of forget any of my experience, any of what I teach, any of my analysis. Let's all just sort of imagine for a second saying those words with that gesture. I knew they were telling the truth. Does that seem like the right place to do that? It's weird. Like why? So we talk about eye blocking. This is something that blocking the eyes when you're facing something unpleasant is embedded in our DNA. Blind people do it. Blind people, when you describe something unpleasant, their eyes close. Think about that. They don't need. There's no need to close their eyes, but they do it as a reflex because we do this to not face unpleasant things. And studying blind people is really interesting because it's not like they picked it up from someone else. So we know that it's embedded in who we are as human beings.
That's Ekman.
Paul Ekman, absolutely. So eye blocking in the face of something unpleasant is human. But it's not just the eyes. It's the one hand that also comes up here and blocks it as well. That's a lot of eye blocking. And this is, again, something like, so the mouth is a big one. Like when we say something we don't want to say, the hand's shooting up, that happens even in children. But the eyes is another one where, like, when we don't want to face something, you might see something along these lines. But for the hand to shoot up like this, I knew they were telling the truth. Here, what is it about this you don't want to face? Again, I don't want to be polarized. I'm not saying it's deceptive. I'm just saying I want to ask her a lot of questions in that moment.
You want to follow up on it? Let's be honest. Come on.
Yeah.
Especially the significance. I knew they were all,
and that's
that
look at the
biggest
chin.
movement.
She's combining it with the chin jet. So she does the eye blocking, and then she protrudes her chin out to try and sell and fight the information into your conscience.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to let you see. I'm withholding this, but here you go.
I wonder,
someone in the comments. So go ahead,
Alita.
I was just going to ask, could it be that she's saying, like, you know, with the eye blocking, saying like, I knew that what they were saying was true. Could that be that, like, it is so if you were to look at it like she is telling the truth, that it is so unpleasant that this has also happened to so many other women?
100%. And thank you for bringing that up, because it's important to remember that all we know is eye blocking means we're having a hard time facing something. It does not mean deception. Yeah. Nothing means deception. So could it be that she's now remembering these, I knew they were. So if the thought is, I knew they were telling the truth because those horrible things happened to me, that makes perfect sense. I'm having a hard time facing these things. I knew. So look at it this way. I knew they were telling the truth because the same thing happened to me. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So this is why all I'm saying is I want to ask more questions. I want to see why this eye block happened. But one way or the other, it doesn't tell me the thought. It just tells me the emotion. There's something here she doesn't want to face. Alita, amazing. Thank you so much for keeping us in that sort of, devil's advocate position.
Yeah, just looking at it from all possible angles.
100%. Someone in the comments said, what if the blind person, lost? They were one-sighted. So I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people who were born blind, still eye block when they hear something unpleasant.
Yeah, it's genetic memory.
Yeah.
Liberation at I'm not crazy. All of the things, the way this person gaslit me, anytime I questioned them, anytime I challenged them, the way they made me feel like I was so wrong and I was so unhinged.
Them? Why is it them? Why not him?
Pause.
Yeah. Because it's supposed to be about one specific man doing all of these things to all of these other women.
Even though she did in one place say that there were two people who did it in her life, but she's never mentioned the other one. Well, don't worry. All this is going to be followed up with documents. So that's a great question. Lena.
But hold on. This isn't about that other person. This is about all these women came out and said these things. And I realized he did all these things to me too. Yeah, that's Alita, amazing point. It's the wrong pronoun. These women didn't make you realize that they did all this to you. These women made you realize that he did this specific person that you should be specifically aggravated. Again, I'm not saying it's all a lie. I'm just saying it's inconsistent with what you would expect to see.
All right.
And then to see that I was right. Like I can trust myself. I wasn't, I see now the truth.
Oh God, she's a bad actor.
Okay, now hold on. I've got to take my little opportunity here. Remember when I said everybody kind of noticed the spell casting?
Yeah.
I want to share.
Rob, pay attention. Eric's too excited. He's hiding excitement.
I'm hiding. That's not subtle.
Stay awake, Rob.
All right.
I'm awake.
I need you to know.
She went from like feigned anger to feigned happiness. Like she, that was
I want you to think of her cadence. I want you to think of her hand gestures, and I want to present to you somebody else.
He's too excited.
Now we have art, music, movies, and books and paintings and whatever it is that inspires you. But without that, all we have is just propaganda and bullshit. And it doesn't really matter who's right or who's wrong. It's not even worth having a conversation about. But the conversation should be about everyone should figure out who they want to be, not who they were. And forget about your childhood scars, mentally, physically, whatever they are, and rise above, because now is the time for people to come together and not in a hippie way.
Wow, I swear I've seen that before.
Yeah, listen,
which interview precedes the other?
Manson's first.
Listen, could it be that they coincidentally have similar illustrators? Because that's what these movements are called. Illustrators are gestures we use to emphasize what we're saying.
They are both performers.
They are, but I'm just pointing out something very specific. Her abuser is who she's emulating. Now, this could be multiple things. And Spidey and I got into an argument about it. Wasn't an argument, it was a heated agreement. But there is a possibility, and I'm going to throw it out there, that she is very impressionable. And I do think, and that's why I said I'm putting it on Illma. If this is not necessarily true, she is influenced. And her movements and everything else, she's an actress, she's emulated him from before. I really believe she learned her gestures that she's doing there from him. And if she is impressionable and absorbs things from different people, she could have absorbed things from somebody in the future, including memories that are implanted. Impressionable people are more easily implanted. Is that true or false?
That's 100% true.
I think that what you're saying there's a little bit of a logical leap that you kind of have to make to get from somebody picking up gestures and then somebody picking up memories.
Well,
from
so
someone
here's
else.
here's that link that's missing. So what Eric is saying is people who are impressionable are suggestible, and people who are suggestible scientifically, it's much easier to mess with their memories. But the evidence is
where's
100%
the empirical
there.
data where's the empirical data that she picked up the hand gestures? Is there a
That's
previous
what I'm
interview?
saying. That's what I'm saying. The evidence isn't there. Like, it
Yeah,
could
you
just
would need to
be
see previous
coincidentally
interviews
similar.
with
Well,
her.
I can show you some. I mean, whatever. We can look at the
You- why
2016
are you-
Congress. She didn't do it there. You saw little clips in there. She looked like a completely different person. For the
Am I the
testimony.
only one that can't hear Eric?
What?
Yeah.
I could hear him. Eric.
Yeah,
Hello.
we can hear him.
Why can't I hear Spidey? Why can't I hear Alita?
I don't know.
You can't hear any of us.
Is he kidding?
We can hear him.
Yeah, clear as day.
All right. Well, and you know what? It all could mean nothing. I do think that there's a
Quick, let's say all of the bad things about Rob. He won't even know.
He'll sense it. he will sense
Yeah,
it.
he's very good at behavior analysis. Let's just say things like this, like don't move much. Just sort of.
I can't.
No, I can't. I tried. Like I was gonna make a joke. There's nothing.
Like try to be like a ventriloquist or something.
Rob, can you hear us?
He might have to go out and come back.
Maybe his earbuds need to be charged.
Oh, could be.
All right. I'm going to play one more clip of her.
Okay.
And this is a dress down clip. There's no audience. Other than this is an interview clip of Evan Rachel Wood, very toned down, and a very brief clip. She's going to be on a podcast.
Rob, can you hear us?
Yep, I got you.
Okay. She's going to be on a podcast coming up. Somebody in the chat, Leslie Lane, actually asked earlier if I could share this. Leslie Lane's a great resource. Leslie Lane actually lived with Marilyn Manson and Evan Rachel Wood.
Whoa.
And somebody else. So she knows Evan Rachel Wood. They were, around each other for a few years. Everybody check her out on Instagram, etc. Good resource finding that information.
That's awesome.
This is coming out right now, or coming soon. And it's Evan Rachel Wood, a little bit culty. She's going to appear.
It's part of the trauma of being in a cult or in a cult dynamic is you can't see it when you're in it. And so not only do you have to process like the sort of the shame of what happened to you, but also the shame of what you feel like you participated in, even though you didn't know what you were participating in. And it's like you have to reconcile these two sides. It's a journey.
She's saying she was in a cult?
I don't know. I'm not going to project the entire
How would
interview.
Dolores deactivate?
Oh. Anyway, I won't project the whole interview because I haven't heard it yet. It's they cut a clip that's going to be significant for everyone to see. Got that?
So,
but it is weird.
Eric, Rob will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe what he's saying, and I agree with, is there's no denying that the hand gestures are similar, but connection does not always suggest correlation. Does not suggest causality. So
of course not.
Yeah. So it's there. But yeah, can we 100% say that she took it from him and that means that she's impressionable? It is a bit of a leap. Fun theory, but a bit of a leap.
I don't know. I find it interesting. And I also find it troubling that even though it obviously could happen, like if you grow up with a father who's abusive, the son may act like the father later on, they may emulate qualities. Absolutely. But it's very, very odd.
Yeah.
Very odd. And there are many performers, Spidey. Do you do that? Is that how you perform? How many performers perform in that exact same way? It's kind of a certain rhythm, and it's not only the gestures, but it's the voice, the cadence.
I see similarities for sure, but it's not odd enough for me to say that like they're the only two in the world.
Of course not.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I do that a lot when I'm explaining things across
She
YouTube.
does.
I tend to be kind of handsy.
Handsy, yes, but it's the.
But we're all talking about like the plaintiff and the defendant, and like have I don't know. It's like
No, so
semi-conscious.
It's not so much the gesturing. It's more this sort of spell casting, which is what Eric says, sort of movements.
It's
of
the
like,
using. It's the actual movement of the fingers in and out. Like
you're making a cat's cradle.
Yeah.
Like
Like
just,
with Marilyn Manson, I was envisioning strings between his fingers, like doing a cat's cradle.
Well, that's why it stood out to me, because I thought her gestures are very weird on The View, and the same gesture she did here. And she even did it in the little clip for the A Little Bit Culty, not as much, but a little. It was odd to look. She's talking and she's saying, and he's grooming me and going in. And I'm not sharing. I didn't do this video. I did another video. I talked all about it and questioned the gestures. It was somebody else who pointed out, she really reminds me of him. And when I heard that, I was like, well, let me go look at a video of his. And I was like, oh, wow.
Maybe that's it, because I haven't seen him at all. The only thing I took away from the end of that interview was how forced and fake those expressions of emotion were. The feigned anger in that moment. That wasn't a real expression of anger.
It wouldn't be very difficult to go to before she met him and look at her hand gestures and see if they're the same or if he did have an influence on that.
Yeah, well, there we go. Homework assignment for everyone in the comments below. Definitely share. And I actually didn't have time to get into everything that we want to. So what do you guys say? Do you want to carry on with a little more Evan Rachel Wood? You want me to bring some receipts for you, some contrary statements, how maybe she said something happened and then elsewhere she said, no, it never happened, and things like that. Years of stuff like that, because there's things out there.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, you planned an Eric surprise. I'm waiting for the Eric surprise.
I think it was not. I think it was the Manson gestures,
which is a minor one. Now, it's not as fun as the receipts, but hey, look, I started out with another Ashley surprise. Did you like that?
That's true.
I mean,
last week's going to be tough to beat. That bomb you dropped on our face.
Well, she wasn't on ketamine when she was doing that interview.
No, she was not, and she was definitely in there.
So, can you go back to that last super chat? Because I was asking about anti-slap and the IIED claim. So the anti-slap motions are on IIED claims that don't have to do with the swatting. They haven't talked about the allegations about swatting in those, meaning regardless of what happens with these anti-slap motions, however the judge ends up ruling, those are not at issue here to be potentially dismissed through this process. So what we're looking at is the creation and use of the FBI letter. What we're looking at then is also the recruitment of women and these, I think, in the groupie video. Those are the three main accusations that are at issue in these two.
And we can go into some of that later on too, because there's witnesses and different things that have come out, especially the groupie video and whatnot. Thank you, Ms. Steed. Always appreciate membership. Tara, thank you very much. That's true. The Trump supporter bit it's going to be suspect to me. I'm not saying fan or not, but I have a friend, for example, who is, I don't know, I'd say slightly to the left of Mao, but he doesn't like Trump, okay? He doesn't like him a bit. And of course, anybody who likes Trump or whatever else is automatically violent, horrible, nasty. And somebody challenged him, and he had to write this all out on Facebook. And the person challenged him. This is like back in 2016 or so. And they said, I'll tell you what, you go ahead and you wear a Hillary cap in like the worst, rednecky place, Trump loving, whatever. You pick the whatever Trump place you want to. And you do that, and then you go ahead and wear a MAGA hat or a red hat in a typical, a left-leaning place or whatever it is.
Right.
And you tell me how things come out. And he kind of had to say, when he was wearing the Hillary hat, a lot of people looked at him askance, like, what are you doing? They were not happy at all, but, nothing happened. Then it was like when it was with the other one, I think he wore somebody's drink. So it is a lot, there's a lot of a reputation that's not necessarily, fair.
I will say that there's a, if you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, there's a whole episode on that where Larry David decides, I can't remember exactly how he like came across this idea, but he ends up deciding to wear a MAGA hat throughout the entire episode because he loves the fact that people will avoid him and they'll leave him alone so he can like walk around and not have to talk to people. So he's like walking around wearing this MAGA hat the whole time until he ends up like getting screamed at by someone. I can't remember. But yeah.
But anyway, on that happy note, folks, if you like this, I mean, there's more to come. We've got Gore versus Gore, trying to get that taken care of, but this is involving a mother who's concerned about her children and fighting for protection orders and things like that. And I want to be really careful because I'm not a lawyer. And I do want to still get my facts as straight as possible and as clear and concise as possible. That is coming out soon. Hopefully I can wrangle everybody here back. Are you guys up for doing another one of these?
Oh yeah, man.
Sure.
I've already blocked off my Thursdays.
Oh, awesome. And then we will continue with a little bit more of Evan Rachel Wood. I think she's definitely worth it on that. And as time permits, and it might lead into another one, I do want to start to look at the Phoenix Rising and look at this group dynamic. I think it's very important to explore what is going on there,
or the possibility
they're meeting in a group. And I also want to look into the one male witness who has substantiated comments, and look into Dan Cleary, I believe his name is. Look at him. Look what's going on. There's a little more with Evan Rachel Wood. She likes certain World War II memorabilia, apparently. And there's just a lot with Evan Rachel Wood and the rest. And Illma Gore. I may be doing a show completely on Illma Gore. I put the Medium article in the chat. It's been up there a few times. There's a lot there. And again, that one I'll have to take my time on because I don't want to just sit there and say this and this and this and this. I really want to go look, find pictures, find receipts, find statements, and share them. So until next time, folks, please comment below if you want us to do it again. And let us know if you find anything. Thank you so much.